Right, hello everybody. Today we're going to learn how to add and subtract negative numbers. Okay, so when we are required to add or subtract negative numbers, especially if you're learning negative numbers for the first time, right, we need to understand what is a number line. And by making use of the number line, we can actually identify what are the values of the numbers after we have add and subtract them. Okay, the next thing that we should be interested in is the basic multiplication rules for numbers. Okay, so we'll be looking at that, and we should also know how to make use of the number line and the multiplication rules to help us to find the final answers when we add and subtract negative numbers. Right, so let's get into the details now. So what are number lines? Okay, basically a number line is just a bunch of a line with a bunch of numbers on it. And the numbers are arranged in ascending order, which means to say that it's actually from small to big, from the left side of the number line to the right side of the number line. Okay, so how do we actually draw a number line? You will actually use your ruler and your pencil. Okay, so draw a line that is pointing to the right hand side. Also using your pencil and the ruler, you draw a line . Okay, that's pointing to the right side. Okay, indicate the, okay, you use an arrow head to indicate the right side of it. Now, depending on the number line, right, depending on the question, usually we'll have a 0, so we'll put a 0 there. And because numbers are arranged from small to big, okay, from the left to the right side, so what will happen is the numbers, we will actually have numbers going to the right side. So this will be 1, this will be 2, this will be 3, this will be 4, and so on. Now, towards the left side of 0, it will be all the negative numbers. And the negative numbers will be going in this order. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, and so on. Right? So this is how you actually draw a number line. So as you can see over here, the smallest number will be on the left side, and the largest number will be on the right side. This is how we draw a number line. Right? Okay, next we look at some multiplication rules. Multiplication rules are very basic. Okay, there are only 4 of them. Right, and you need to memorize all 4 of them in order to be efficient in your calculations. Okay, so what are the 4 rules? We take a look at the first one. Right, so any positive number multiplied by any positive numbers will give you a positive number. So example, this is what we have learned in primary school as well. 6 times 8 will give you 48. Okay, so this is the meaning of positive number multiplied by a positive number will give you a positive number. Okay, now the remaining 3 rules may be new to you, so I need you to listen carefully and I need you to memorize them after you have understood the rules. Right, so the next rule that we're going to look at will be positive times negative. Alright, so any positive numbers multiplied by any negative numbers, they'll give you a negative number. Okay, so for example, 6 times negative 8 will give you a value of negative 48. You can also verify this using your calculator. Just key in all this inside your calculators. You should see the answer negative 48 appearing in your calculator. Alright, okay, so this will be the second rule of multiplication. The third rule will be any negative numbers multiplied by any positive numbers will give you a negative number. So for example, negative 6 multiplied by 8 will give you negative 48. Okay, you can also verify this using your calculator. And the last rule, okay, negative number multiplied by another negative number will give you a positive number. So if we take negative 6 multiplied by negative 8, you'll end up with positive 48. Okay, this can be verified using your calculator as well. So all in all, there are 4 multiplication rules. Okay, positive times positive equals to positive, positive times negative equals to negative, negative times positive equals to negative, negative times negative equals to positive. Alright, so please understand all these rules, understand how it works. Okay, you should also play around with your calculators to have to be convicted that these are really the actual rules, okay, that are happening. And once you have understood how they work, please memorize them because they are necessary when you are adding or subtracting negative numbers. Alright, let's take a look at some examples now. So when we are adding negative numbers, right, there will be three scenarios where you can add negative numbers. Okay, first scenario will be a positive number adding a negative number. Okay, second scenario, a negative number adding a positive number. Okay, the last scenario, a negative number adding a negative numbers. Okay, so for example, 3 plus negative 5. So this will be a scenario whereby we take a positive number adding a negative number. So negative plus positive will be negative 3 plus 5. And negative plus negative will be negative 3 plus negative 5. Now notice between when we add a negative numbers, right, there is a pair of brackets in between the plus and the minus. Right? In maths, we cannot write two operators together consecutively. It is not allowed and it is not the correct way to write things. Okay, so we cannot have something like this, 3 plus negative 5 being written together. So this is not allowed, right? This is not allowed in math, right? So the correct way to write a pair of negative numbers, right, when you are dealing with negative numbers, is to insert a pair of brackets between the plus and the minus to separate the plus and the minus, right? Okay, the next thing that I want to share with you is when you see a pair of brackets in between a pair plus and a minus, right? It refers to multiplication. So we have learned about multiplication rules just now, right? So when you see 3 plus negative 5, it means I need to multiply the positive and the negative to achieve a minus sign. So I will share with you in the next slide. Alright, so just now we have discussed about how to remove the brackets from here. Okay, so over here we have positive multiplied by negative. We'll replace this multiplication with a minus sign. So this is what we will get now. So 3 plus negative 5 will end up with 3 minus 5. Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to make use of a number line to help us to calculate the answers for this question. Okay, so if you have a number line, okay, and I start off with 3, okay, and when we minus 5, do we move left or do we move to the right? Okay, we will actually move to the left, right? So from 3, we move 5 steps to the left. Okay, so we move 5 steps to the left, minus 5. Okay, and when we move 5 steps to the left, how many units are there here? There are actually 3 units. So how many units are we left? Will we be left here? Because we are moving 5 steps back, 5 minus 3, we are left with 2 units. Okay, so 2 units to the left of 0, what will it become? The value will be negative 2. So the answer for 3 plus negative 5 will be equal to 3 minus 5. And using the number line, we'll find out that the answer is negative 2. Okay, so do you understand how to do this question? Right. Alright, let's take a look at the other scenario, okay, where we add a negative number with a positive number. Now notice that there is no brackets, there are no brackets in between the numbers. So we can actually work on the numbers straight away. We'll use a number line to help us to do this now. Alright, so I can draw a number line. Okay, I started off with negative 3, so I'm going to write negative 3 on my number line. Okay, plus 5 means I move to the right. Okay, so I will actually add 5 units to the right. Okay, so in between I have 0. Okay, so from negative 3 to 0, how many units do we have? Okay, we have 3 units. Okay, so if we shift 5 units to the front, 5 minus 3, we are left with 2 units. Okay, so our answer will be 2. Okay, because 0 plus 2 will be 2. So the answer for this question will be 2. Okay, are we clear about this? Alright, next we look at the last scenario where we are adding a negative number with a negative number. So now there's a brackets in between them, right? There's a pair of brackets here. So we need to remove the brackets first. Positive times negative will give you negative. So we'll change it to minus 5 first. So this will be negative 3. Positive times negative is negative. So we have minus 5. Okay. Now we will use the number line to help us to calculate the answer. So we draw a number line. Okay. We start with negative 3. Okay. Negative 3 minus 5. So minus 5 we shift to the left. Okay. Where is 0? 0 is here, right? So it's actually not affecting us. The 0 is actually here. So negative 3 minus 5 units. So it's actually adding 3 with 5. So if you take negative 3 minus 5, we'll end up with negative 8. Okay, how do we get this 8? 3 plus 5 units. We shifted 5 more units to the left. So the answer for this question will be negative 8. Do you understand how to do it now? Alright, so we have finished with the addition of negative numbers. Next, we will look at the subtraction of negative numbers. Okay, again, there are 3 scenarios. A positive number minus a negative number. The second scenario, a negative number minus a positive number. And the last scenario, a negative number minus a negative number. Okay, so similar to the previous examples, we will have subtractions, and it's important to have a pair of brackets separating the minus signs. Okay, because we cannot have 2 operators together, plus plus, plus minus, minus minus, minus plus. We cannot have 2 operators together in math. They are not approved operators, right? Okay, so let's take a look at how to calculate 3 minus negative 5. So as per what we have done just now, for addition, we will need to multiply the terms first. So negative times negative gives us positive. We'll change this to plus 5. Okay, and 3 plus 5 is a very standard addition, right? So 3 plus 5 is just 8. This will be our answer. Okay, are we clear about this? Okay, next we will look at negative 3 minus 5. So negative 3 minus 5, we can actually make use of the number line straight away. There are no brackets in between here, so we can just make use of the number line straight away. Okay, we started with negative 3. Our 0 is here. Okay, so negative 3 minus 5, we're shifting to the left by 5 units. Okay, so this was actually discussed earlier. How do we actually add this? So 3 plus 5 is actually 8. We shift to the left by 5 units. We'll end up with negative 8. So our answer for this question will be negative 8. Simple, right? Okay. Last scenario, negative 3 minus negative 5. Now, negative times negative will give us positive. So right now, what do we need to do now? We need to actually change this to plus 5. So negative 3 minus negative 5 will end up with negative 3 plus 5. So we started with negative 3. I need to plus 5, so I need to shift to the right. Okay, there's a 0 in between the answers. So from negative 3 to 0, it is 3 units. So how many units are we left here? 5 minus 3, we are left with 2 units. Okay, so our answer here will be 2. So negative 3 plus 5 is equals to 2. This is how we subtract negative numbers. Are all of us very clear about this? Now there's another technique to do this kind of questions as well. If we find that this is very, very cumbersome, we can always rely on the calculator. So you can just key in your calculator, negative 3 minus negative 5 to get the answer. Okay, but I will still recommend that all of us, we minimally memorize the multiplication rules, okay, so that we can actually convert our brackets into this format, right? Avoid writing plus plus, plus minus, minus plus, or minus minus in between 2 numbers, because those are not allowed in math, right? So I hope you enjoyed the learning, and we'll see you next time.